Hey community, I had the chance to sit down with Bobby Watts, founder of Watts Innovation, which makes the PX4 based drones used by Walmart for delivery. Find out why Bobby made the switch to open technologies and what makes him a true believer. Coming up next.
So fast forward to today, we are...
Hardware is hard.
It's hard. So we have just shipped out early units of Prism Sky to paying customers. And so...
Wait, Prism Sky was the Prism plus the Sky node.
Exactly.
And Authorian Enterprise PX4.
Exactly.
And the Authorian suite on the cloud.
Exactly. So that's really the main difference. And then we took advantage of some little things we've been learning from customers just over time. Mm-hmm. So mechanically, we made some changes, actually to a lot. It ended up just being one or two changes, and now it's a completely different animal.
Who is Bobby Watts?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I think at the purest answer to that would be the fact that I'm an engineer and that I like making things, and I like to balance the art and engineering. So like half left brain, half right brain. And so, yeah, basically kind of how I ended up here. I was I think a pretty early adopter from this industry in RC helicopters. So I got into RC helis back in 2003. Mm-hmm. So I was I think middle school, had braces, just kind of complete dork when you look at it now. But just building an RC helicopter in my mom's living room, on the carpet. And nitro powered. We had a tail gyro, so that was the only piece of stabilization that we had.
Wow.
And at that point we had heading holds, so that if you put the tail in a certain orientation, it would just stay there whether you flew sideways or something. And the RC helicopters that I got into were aerobatics. So not only could they just kind of putt around, but we could fly upside down, we could fly sideways.
Oh, so you were piloting them and you were actually knowing how to move them around.
Yeah, exactly. So I started building them, as you do, right? And they were nitro powered and smoke and stuff everywhere. And then I just kept flying. I got hooked up with an amazing group of local guys in the Baltimore, Maryland area. Yep. And basically we were just building them and then learning to fly them. And so I ended up getting pretty good at flying them. And so I ended up becoming a professional RC helicopter pilot for many years, probably 6-7 years, something like that.
Damn, how did you get into that job? Through forums online, or how did they find you?
Yeah. You just kind of stumble your way into it. And I mean, I just had the knack for it, because in order to do it, you had to balance the left brain, right brain. So you had to be able to balance the working on it and the mechanics. But then at the end of the day, it's kind of like Tony Hawk skateboarding, right? Yeah. There's tricks. Yeah. And so it's kind of we're freestyle motocross meets figure skating meets skateboarding. So I think the coolest thing is the fact that I got pretty good at twisting the sticks, if you will, moving the sticks around. And so I was involved in competitions and demonstrations all over the world. And it allowed me to travel to...
Wait, how old were you?
My first competition, I was 16.
Damn.
17. And then, did that for a while. Did that until, I think, 2013 or so.
I was watching cartoons at home at that age.
Oh, yeah? No, but it was just amazing, because I got to do demos and competitions and really learn to fly under pressure. And then the other thing it really taught me, too, and I think probably one of the things I'm most proud of, is that in all my competition flights, I think I added up one time, it was probably over 100 and something competition flights. Yeah. Where you have 4 minutes, usually to music, you set it to music. So in that way, it's like figure skating.
Wait, so you mean that this is technically doing tricks?
Yeah.
With the music.
Right.
Okay. So this is really cool.
I would encourage anyone, you can look up RC helicopter tricks, but you just Google or YouTube my name and then helicopter, and then just find stuff from back in the day, because it's cool, and maybe you can overlay it as
maybe we can put it on
video here.
The screen.
And what I love, we could get into this really deep, but there's a whole RC helicopter world where getting into doing tricks and stuff. So myself, I like rock and roll, and getting into some of the heavier stuff. So back in 2008, everybody was flying to, maybe to some softer music and flying with movie themes or something, and I just come in with some heavy metal and just kind of disrupt the system. But it was great. And so learning to do various tricks and such, and learning what a crowd wants to hear. And then, that's where I was going to go. So I think what I was most proud of is that after all my competition flights, only 2 out of those 100 and something, I had to basically land early due to a mechanical defect. So
that's nice.
Stripped a tail gear or something dumb.
And these are units you build yourself?
Yeah, you build them yourself. So it's like a kit, and then you build it yourself. And so, it was really important for me to learn how to make aircraft that I knew were flight worthy, because it's the same thing today. Yeah. Same exact thing in drone world. But so what I ended up doing was working very closely with the manufacturers. So I got linked up with like RC helicopter kind of pioneers, like companies like Miniature Aircraft in Florida, where there were maybe 25 people or so, and they manufactured RC helicopter kits. And so me going in as a high schooler down to their facility in Florida, I got to see like, whoa, like they have people who design these, and then they have people who put the bolts and parts in a bag and make the kits for people. They have customer service. And I look at my business now, and it's like
industry behind it.
Yeah, it's like, wow, this kind of mirrors what we were doing. Yeah. So more importantly with RC helis, and why it works with drone world, is like, this is where PWM comes from. It comes from RC helicopters, right? And then, even with gyros and stuff, like I was adjusting gains with a potentiometer on my helicopter in 2003, like on the tail. Yeah. And then we got into flight controllers with PID tuning on the main rotor around, that was like 09, 07 to 09 is when I started playing with that. So just like flight tuning, the aircraft to fly well in various conditions. So anyway, was doing the RC helicopter stuff, and then got involved in designing the RC helicopters. Around 2009 was my first one.
Okay.
All the while, I went to school at University of South Carolina for mechanical engineering. And so it's funny coming here and speaking to you in your podcast, because I'm a mechanical engineer. So my weakest part is software. Yeah. And our main software engineer, Jake, who's phenomenal.
Hi, Jake.
Hey, Jake. Yeah. He reminds me of this all the time. But mechanical, like that's my strong suit, right? And kind of overall systems, right? Like knowing what I want as the pilot, right? Yeah. Because I started as a pilot. But so learning mechanical, designing the RC helicopters, basically. I think designed like maybe 4 or something now for the various aerobatic helicopters. Yeah. So getting my mechanical engineering degree, designing, kind of traveling, doing these demos and such. And then I think the course, we kind of went to a new course, a new era in 2007 when I was flying for that company, Miniature Aircraft in Florida. They called me one day and said, hey, we've got a local cinematographer here who wants to attach a movie camera to one of our helicopters.
And that's when it all started.
And we want you to pilot it. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So, but we need you to come down right now. It's a jet ski commercial, or like a Sea-Doo commercial. Okay, cool. So I fly to Florida and meet up with this guy.
What do you remember? What year was this?
2007.
Okay.
So the helicopter had a flybar, tail gyro. I think it was shooting on some sort of tape, right? I don't know. It could have been a digital camera. A servo gimbal stabilization, right? And so I meet up with this.
I wonder what it was.
I don't remember. I don't remember the camera. I'd have to ask. But I met up with a cinematographer named Jordy Klein, who I eventually ended up befriending and working with him for many, many, many years.
Oh, cool.
And his daughter actually is an engineer for us now. So
that's kinda amazing.
Yeah, full circle. So meet up with Jordy, and we go there and we do the shoot. And so I'm piloting like RC, no stabilization, with a flybar, for basically like no self-leveling, none of that. So if you want to point towards the action, if the Sea-Doo's coming this way and they want the shot looking this way, you have to fly nose in, kind of sideways, just no stabilization, nothing, right? So that was early in the day. And then fast forward a few years, 2010, we rigged up another helicopter to carry like a Canon 5D, and we got a call to do this show called Dangerous Encounters for National Geographic.
Yeah, I know what it is. Yeah, I've seen it.
Okay, cool. With Brady Barr. Mm-hmm. And so we got to go to South Africa and film the sharks jumping out of the water, the great whites.
So you're what, 20 by then?
Yeah, right around
And then you traveled around the world doing RC?
Yeah.
You were shooting commercials?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, and it all started by driving your mom crazy in your house with a bunch of cables flying around
yeah,
everywhere.
with wrenches. And so once again, flying a helicopter, no stabilization, kind of servo gimbals back in the day. And then fast forward just a few years to maybe 2011. 2011, we started working. We took what we had with a helicopter, where we then started flying the Red movie camera.
Oh, nice.
So we started flying the Red on a helicopter.
More expensive payloads than the 5D,
like a
right?
60 grand camera or something, right? All based around a $700 Chinese or Taiwanese helicopter. And so we started
I feel
migrating.
like people don't realize how fragile things were at the beginning.
Yeah, it was very delicate. And the hardest part with the helis was just vibrations. So you'd get these oscillations and the tail spinning, I don't know, 8,000 RPM, 5 to 8,000 RPM. So it's just like, there's a lot of tuning with the helis.
Yeah.
And so it'd be things like taking off from a rocking boat in shark-infested waters, things like that.
I just crashed my drone last spring, because I wanted to take off a boat and then I wanted to land, but then a wave came over when I was landing and I just lost control. Oh no! And I went crashing down the water.
Yeah, there's a whole art to taking off and landing on a boat. So we always do boat nose to the wind.
Yeah.
We shut engines off because it'll, especially on the bigger movie cameras, even the idle of the engine would mess with the gimbals. So you'd go to fire the gimbal up and it would start drifting.
Yeah.
So we had this whole process. So anyway,
you had to figure out then,
we had to figure it out.
I was like, okay, let's do it. I want a good shot.
We did figure it out. So I guess in kind of the next phase in 2011 or so, we took everything we knew from helicopters and started flying multi-rotors with it. So now we were flying the Red movie camera with multi-rotors.
Okay, question.
2011.
Why did you decide to move to multi-rotors? Did you see the technology moving forward? Because you were doing your own thing.
Yeah.
And did you keep participating in the RC forums or the RC community?
Yeah. So the multi-rotors were coming out around then. So 2011, we were flying with the KK2 board. Mm-hmm. Remember that? I think it was out of Korea. So we were flying with that, and we just saw how stable they were. Multi-rotors were very stable, where the helicopters were quite squirrely. Yeah. But multi-rotors, they just inherently kind of wanted to hover. And so we just started, just playing, right? Just putting GoPros on them and things like that, and then started building bigger aircraft. And I think it was 2013, actually, when we actually put the Red on a big multi-rotor. And but it's still early days. What KV do we need? How much power do we? So all these things we have to figure out.
Flight time 5 minutes.
It was. And we were on 6S then, getting way too hot. So then we had to learn to go to 12S and all these things. And so flying a lot of kind of DJI based flight controllers then too. Yeah. Because there wasn't really anything robust enough besides DJI's Wukong.
There wasn't really anything. Yeah. That's how some of the open source and open hardware got created, because there was nothing out there. Mm-hmm. And specifically for Pixhawk and Pix4, I think that Dr. Lawrence Mayer was trying to do his master's, I think. He just wanted to get a drone together, and there was nothing out there. No. And he just putting parts together and creating stuff, because there was literally nothing but the RC world.
Exactly.
And it was good because it was really very established, and there was a huge community. Mm-hmm. And I think the DIY community from Arduino and all that, it really helped. Yep. And then the RC community that was really well established. Yep. I think you just mixed together.
It did, and it took some time. It took some time to get there. And I think what the RC community does really well is just kind of vets out kind of the crap, right? There's if you go to the average RC field, everyone's flying what their friends are flying, but it just vets out all the stuff that's not working well. So the RC pilots don't want to just go there and just fly stuff that's going to waste their time. Yeah. And so I think it helped, the RC world, you're right, meeting with the kind of DIY world meshed really well, probably in 2015 to 2020, I'd say, right? Those were really a lot of growth for just multi-rotors in general. And so for us, we flew, at least for us in the movie camera stuff, we were flying DJI-based flight controllers for a long time, because for us, we were always making kind of aircraft that we wanted to fly, we felt comfortable with on a movie set, but then also, later as we made Watts Innovations, wanted to make it kind of a turnkey system for a customer, where they're not spending their days just messing with prim. It just has to work. Yeah. So
it's interesting, because you went from building your own stuff with the RC stuff and doing the acrobatics,
Yep.
to focusing on actually shooting the video.
Yes.
And that's
Did that for a long time.
That's
Yeah.
what led you to choosing DJI.
Yes.
Because you needed a stable platform.
Just had to work.
And you needed to work on the video and not on the actual flying vehicle.
Yeah, exactly. And so then I'm filming with, as I mentioned, with Jordy Klein. He has a company called XCam Aerials, and he and his father are legends in the industry. His father won an Academy Award for underwater shooting for James Bond back in the day with Sean Connery. So like they know all about movies and they get all these cool shots. So we got to go film everything. Like we filmed things for SpaceX. They shot Stranger Things with our drone last year.
Yeah.
I don't know, different things, Netflix, HBO, movies, you name it. So it really kind of Watts Innovations really came to be when the DJI Ronin 2 gimbal came out, which was just this awesome gimbal that could carry the red. And so it's like, hey, we should build a drone for this. So then I just built just designed, like, okay, I'll just make one for us. So I designed a hexacopter, kind of heavy lift drone.
This is the MFD 5000?
MFD 5000. We needed a name for it.
What does the name mean?
Well, the MFD, this is a...
Sounds like Terminator.
It's a family-friendly show. The MFD could stand for my favorite drone or something kind of
My favorite drone, I'll take it.
It could stand for anything. And then the 5000, we just called it, we were using the DJI E5000 motors, so we just threw the 5000
Oh,
in there.
okay. So it's like, so that people knew as like
just
match?
just as a size, right?
Okay.
Yeah. And then, so I literally built him a drone. I think I charged him $5,000. I'm like, just give me $5,000. That'll cover the cost.
Parts.
Yeah, the parts. So I designed it, and then we flew it on a film set for a year. So for that year, we were just refining.
Were you still using the DJI flight controller?
Yeah, it's the DJI A3.
Yeah.
A3 Pro, and it was great. Like it just works really well. But in that time, we were filming. Man, we filmed some big stuff for the MFD. I think we filmed that movie, All Eyes on Me, that Tupac movie.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff. We did a lot of filming with that. So did that for a year, and then fast forward a year, one of our buddies is like, "Hey, can I buy one of those MFDs from you?" I'm like, "Oh, like I could sell these." Like, okay, sure. So I think
Maybe
I doubled it. I'm like, I'll charge you like $10,000. Oh, okay, cool. So they wire the money, and great. And then I just started posting my journey.
A seed was planted in your brain.
It was it. Yeah, and I just started posting on Instagram and LinkedIn and just being like, hey, here I am. This is what I'm working on.
Yeah.
And so then I got another call from, I think, a company called Drone Dudes, and then Phoenix LiDAR came in around that time too, saying like, hey, we want this too, but we want to see a demo. But I had like no money. So I would go to Jordy and be like, hey, can I borrow your drone real quick? I'll give you I'll discount you $200 for the next shoot. Just let me borrow your drone. So I'd meet up with them, grab the drone. Customer would, Drone Dudes or Phoenix LiDAR, they'd come to see a demo, and I'd show them, do a demo. They're like, okay, we'll buy it. I'm like, no way, crap, awesome. So then,
Did you double the price again?
Kept increasing a little bit, and then at this point was working in the spare bedroom, right? Just like spare bedroom, like a nice workshop, right? You don't need much.
So it was just you by then?
It was just me. Yeah, just doing everything. So I was designing it.
You were out of school by then?
Yeah, this was 2018.
And your main job was shooting video and drones?
Yeah, so I was doing video and drones. But at the time, this was interesting too. At the time, I was doing the video shooting, but it just wasn't stable enough to make really a living, right?
Yeah.
So I had a buddy of mine in a former business venture where, of all things, he made a living. He did really well, still does to this day, importing used truck tires.
Oh, I have a friend that does that
literally
too.
Bringing in truck tires, and then he sorts them and then sells them to Goodyear and stuff, and they retread them.
Yeah.
And he calls it black gold. There's a lot of money in it.
Yeah, it is.
And so what I would do is I'd work for him in the morning. So I'd get up at 5, work with him and haul tires and move them around with the forklift, and then be off by noon, and then work in the afternoons on the MFD. Because I needed the money to survive. So if you look at Watts Innovations, Instagram and go real early, the earliest stuff, I'm just posting what I'm doing. And so it's like, here we are moving truck tires today, and then working on the drone. So that helped pay the bills. Because I've realized building drones, it's going to be a long play. So I'm just going to keep doing this and see where this goes, but I need to make some money. So anyway, doing the truck tires in the morning, and then building these drones for customers, and still didn't have enough money yet to even have my own.
Yeah.
So I'd keep borrowing Jordy's to go demo for other people. And then I think by the 5th or something drone, it's like, oh, cool, I've made enough cash where I can build my own
Bobby,
now.
that's dedication.
So,
that's
yeah.
dedication. Like
Yeah.
you had a goal. You knew what you're doing. But you also saw the opportunity, right? Like, because there was actually nothing else in the industry back then.
FreeFly. There's FreeFly Alta 8, which is amazing. Like they're nothing but respect for FreeFly. They're pioneers. Excuse me?
What year was this?
Still 2018.
2018.
But we were flying.
Okay.
Yeah, we were flying.
I thought we were still 11, 12.
No. So
fast forward.
Yeah, but we were flying multi-rotors. Yeah, we were flying our own stuff from 2013 to we got an Alta 8 around whenever that came out, probably 2017. Yeah. But the problem with the Alta 8 was it could carry a red, but not with the heavy lenses that the director wanted. So we'd get to a film set and they'd be like, here's your lens for today. It's like, we're maxing out the weight. We can't fly this. So then that's when we just made our own but had FreeFly made the Alta X at that point, I wouldn't have done this.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because it just came out of, we needed to. So it's like, I can build us a drone.
Yeah.
So then we did it. So then we had the MFD 5000 and I was just building them one-off. Doing cool customizations for customers because I realized I could as one-off. So all the MFDs, they have like custom carbon fiber cut into them.
Damn, you should have signed them too.
So I was doing those out of the basement for a long time. And then, I don't know how many we ended up selling. Probably, maybe 50 or so. Like MFD 5000s, like, not nothing, but a decent amount to get our start, right?
I hope you have one in your office at least, so just like hanging in there.
Well, he's got the original one. I think I'm going to take that from him. I'll have to inherit that from him. But so anyway, so that brings us to Watts Innovations. And Watts Innovations was my 18th attempt at like a business. 18th. There's a lot of other stuff in the way we didn't even mention.
Really?
But there's a lot of other crap.
Because I did read your bio on your website, and it's like, well-rounded understanding about drone industry, and then you start listing all the things you did, like film and TV, inspection, cargo, and I was like, okay, so it was like, back then it was like the main areas of the drone industry, and you were already there. Yeah. So you were here from the beginning. You were working on drones since like, how long now? 10, 12, 15?
Yeah, I mean, multi-rotors was 2011, so 11 years. 11 years. But then 03 was, but we were flying cameras on helis, so that was 03. So, I mean, almost 20 years.
It's a blurred line, like gray line.
Almost 20 years.
Wow. Yeah. It's a lot. And you're still a pilot? You still fly?
So the coolest thing about what we do at Watts Innovations is a lot of us come in from the RC side. So we have like some of the best pilots on our staff. So half the guys sitting there wrenching can take the machine out and fly the bejesus out of it, right? And test it and whatever.
And where were you based?
I'm from Baltimore, Maryland originally, and then I moved down to Winter Garden, Florida in 2012.
For all the film
for a lot of that stuff, and then ended up moving back to met my wife down there, and then we moved back to Baltimore just to be closer to family in 2019. So now we're there.
And then you created Watts Innovation in 2016ish.
Yeah, 16.
And then you did it in Maryland as well.
Yeah, and Watts Innovations really started as just a shell company, like. Had I known it was going to go into this, I would not have named it after myself. Yeah. But really, Watts Innovations was just set up as like a shell company to run all of my freelance design projects out of. So I'm doing the film world stuff. So I'm a contractor, right? So it's like, I should probably have an LLC for this. But then also too, just trying to kind of make ends meet wherever I could. I was doing a lot of freelance design on Upwork.com. So people would submit like, hey, I have an idea for a golf ball tee and I need it designed in CAD. Like, okay, so I'd bid a few $100, then I'd design it.
Choose that mechanical design degree.
And we designed like toilet seats. We designed like high heel shoes.
Oh, I was wondering because it's on your website too. I was wondering where that came from.
Yeah, so just as drink caddies, toys like cups, just stupid stuff. So,
but it financed what ended up being Watts Innovation in all your development. That's interesting because you did tire thing. You did the RC stuff.
Yeah, there's one other one too. It's worth Googling actually. I think I'm 10 years early on this, so I think we have a few years to go. 2016, founded a company called Drobotron. Drobotron. So drone, Jumbotron.
Oh.
So what it was is it's a flying TV. So it's a screen, an LED screen that wrapped around the drone in a circle. And it was like a video transmitter, but in reverse.
Yeah.
So the transmission side was on the ground, and the receiver was in the air. So we could beam video live to the drone. So we figured like, oh, this would be great for advertising or for concerts or something. And this is like 2016, 17, FAA Part 107 had just kind of come out.
Yeah.
And the problem was you needed to be near people to show it, and you needed to prove to someone like the ROI first, you know? The only gig we ever got out of it was really cool. It was like a private Drake concert. And we're like flying around the Drake show with the lyrics.
Drake concert?
Yeah. Like, of all shows, like that's what we did. But I think we sold one Drobotron machine, and it's like, I'm too early. I think I'm 10 years. So I think 4 years from now, you'll see it to be. So it's like you see the drone light shows now in swarms.
Which is kind of like that, like the pixels in the sky.
Exactly. But this was like a massive TV.
Yeah.
And that was cool, but that didn't work out so well. So.
Wow. So, and then with Watts Innovation, your goal was just to manufacture, or what was your initial goal behind Watts Innovation when you made the LLC? Just to have the shell company?
Yeah. It was basically just to run through all of my projects. Just to show, just seeing where things took me, right? And then
it was just you two, like
it was just myself, and my wife Carly would help out.
Wow.
So her father was an entrepreneur himself and had an imported car sales and service center for 30 years that he sold, and so she was always very mechanically inclined as well. So there's pictures of her working on like the first MFD with me and like tightening screws and stuff, and she's the best, like super supportive and been with me since day one in it. But the best part too is that she saw all the things that didn't work. Like another one of Watts Innovations, we were actually on an infomercial, and we made a dog product. So you know the doggy ice cream that you can give to a dog? We made a little attachment that could stick to a window, and then or to especially like in the bathtub.
Like a suction cup?
Yeah, suction cup, and had a little gooseneck on it. You know, like kind of on like a GPS in your car, like a phone holder.
Yeah, the holder.
Yep. And so we made that and took it to some friends who have some connections in the as seen on TV.
You did everything.
Yeah, we did a lot. So we were in an infomercial. It never went, but that was one Watts Innovations thing. So yeah, we did a lot. But basically, once it became clear after probably selling literally only like 2 or 3 drones. It became very clear. It's like, okay, there is a market for non-DJI drones.
Yeah,
there's a market. And then the question was like, what do people want? And so with the MFD, it started as a platform and then just catering. So someone's like, hey, I want one for cinema. Okay, I'd rig it up this way. And then the company's like, hey, I want it for LiDAR. Like, well, okay, well, what needs to happen for LiDAR? Oh, I just need a mount for a GPS and 24 volts. Okay, so like, let me put a regulator in there and let me build an external mount. So then over time, the later specs just kind of became all encompassing. Like, okay, this can do LiDAR or cinema. And then fast forward to today.
You're still using DJI flight controllers?
Yeah, they're still DJI A3. And then fast forward to even now, it's like, all right, let's build the pickup truck. Right? That has everything.
The Cybertruck.
Yeah, really, yeah. Let's build the pickup truck that kind of has everything. All the ports exposed, so that way if you're doing LiDAR or delivery or...
more like an OEM
cinema,
machine, right? Like just take it and do whatever
do what you want with it. So that's what spawned it. And had we not done all of those one-on-ones and worked with our customers so closely, and like even then customer service was them texting me. So, but it was great. If I'm awake, I answer the phone.
So WhatsApp group with the few.
Just literally a text like, "Hey man, the drone," or call me. The drone's doing this. Oh, okay. Did you try this? Oh no. Okay, thanks.
You try turning it on and off again.
Yeah. But yeah, we did that, and then our first entry into kind of Pixhawk land, if you will, was when we created the drone Prism, and that came
the original Prism.
Yeah, and that came out in 2020. So.
And okay, so let's talk about the requirements for that drone. Why did you build that, and what was in your mind? What's your goal behind that?
Good question. So, with Prism, with the MFD, it was always just myself. It was just myself. And then I had a good friend of mine from college, Caleb. I called him up one day and said, hey, can you design an electrical engineer? We went to college together, always kind of getting in trouble, roommates together. We had a side business that did some cool stuff. And so I'm like, hey, I need you to design like one circuit board for me. Okay, no problem. So he made a nice power distribution board for the MFD.
Yeah.
So then I was like, hey, I have some customers who want like a smaller machine. Like we should make a slightly smaller machine. But I think I need 2 circuit boards this time. Oh, okay, no problem. I'll help you out. So he just helps me designing circuit boards. So then I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, time to start fresh. Like, I want to design. What do people want? And so what became scary about the MFD was that DJI made the A3, the light bridge, which was the controller,
the telemetry,
and the E5000 motors discontinued overnight, all of them. So I could no longer make a product.
Yeah. So
it's like, okay, this is not good. And then there started to become this anti-DJI talk in the US, right? From critical infrastructure saying, we can't use, it started with it can't be a DJI like flight controller or an DJI aircraft or whatever. So we just started getting this non-DJI stuff in the air. So I'm like, okay, well, let me base it around something. So from a previous project, I'd worked with the Orange Cube and ArduPilot. So I'm like, I know this pretty well, and I think the hardware is there. So let me go that way. So it started with the Orange Cube and ArduPilot, and with Caleb, it's like, okay, I think I need 2 or 3 boards. So next thing you know, fast forward, he makes 11 boards for Prism, and we just started it as clean, and it's like, let's make it, let's go ahead and make it a drone that's just really robust. Let's make it a quad, but also I think customers might want heavy lift. Yeah. So let's make it an X8 as well. So then through all that too, we developed this tech that we've applied for a patent for, which we call Propulsion ID, which each of the arms has its own little chip on it. And so you flash the arm and you tell it what kind of propulsion system it is, whether it's a quad or coax.
X8, okay.
And then you tell it the location on the aircraft, front right, front left. And then it tells it the date, the date that you flashed it, the tech who built it, the firmware version, and then as well as it writes its flight time to 0.
So now you're into manufacturing, and
now we're making stuff.
Yeah.
Now we're making stuff. It's like, okay, this is a lot. So then the cool thing is that when the drone boots up, it queries each motor and then say, what are you? And like, oh, I'm a coax. Okay, change the PIDs and the mixer for coax and blast that out. And then also too, it writes the flight time for each individual motor. So you can take that motor and switch it to another machine and still see that it has that flight time on it.
Yeah.
So at that point,
how did you know you needed to do that? Like, what problem were you trying to solve?
Oh God, that was trying to solve. So that was a. So Damon John, one of the sharks, he has a book called The Power of Broke, and the thesis is that like if you're broke, there's a lot of power because you're constrained. Yeah. So for us, it was constrained. It's like, all right, I want to make a drone that can be small enough to fly as a quad, but I still think customers still want the heavy lift. So I only have the time and resources to make one center airframe, right? But maybe I can make it with like different propulsion systems so that,
I see.
I'm going to make it strong enough to fly at 55 pounds, but light enough to fly at 30 as a quad. So basically set that up. And so at that point, it was just myself. Caleb was helping me out.
So you're just trying to make it modular and just cheap as possible to manufacture.
Yeah, just modular. And then at that point too, I decided like, okay, actually I forgot about this part. Towards the end of the MFD days, I had some customers wanting Pixhawk. I forgot about it, yeah. So we did like, not many, 3 or 4 MFDs with an Orange Cube, carrier board, taped to the deck, running ArduPilot.
Because, and the requirement was Pixhawk because they wanted ArduPilot?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
So they were doing, so they were, some of them were working with the Army or something like that. And so I got into it, that's right. This is really what created Prism actually, I'm kind of wrong. So I have to revisit this. So
it's a long time ago.
Yeah, it's just things are crazy these days. So
I'm
going to retract.
The last 5 years have been crazy.
The last 5 years have been wild. So that's really what happened. So we had the MFD, which was just a hand soldering machine. So then it became customers wanting Pixhawk. So Orange Cube put in. Would get the Mach regulators, which are fantastic, but there's a lot of wires, right? So like put the Mach regulators in, and then the customer wants this radio or that radio and a Crossfire and RFD 900, and so just getting into the ecosystem with MFD, then I realized, like, man, it takes me a really long time to hand solder all of this.
Yeah.
Like, we should make a Pixhawk machine that just breaks everything out with less wires.
Yeah.
And then a smaller machine and non-DJI. Let's not put a single DJI part on here.
Yeah.
And that's really what created Prism and created that. So around the MFD time, I still didn't know, and to this day, I don't know how to write a line of code. Like, I don't know. So at that point, we were just selling it with like Q ground control or Mission Planner. And so my way into your world, into kind of drone code basically, was I hired this like high school kid for like $20 an hour and said, hey, all I want to do is I want Q ground control and I just want to put our logo on it. That's all I want to do.
Yeah.
And so just for him to install it and compile it, like, he just couldn't figure it out. So he would ask these questions on the online forums.
Yeah.
And this guy kept replying, and it was Jake Dahl out of Alaska. And so for a while, I just hit up this guy. Jake would keep answering the high schoolers' questions. I forget, I think his name is Kyle. Yeah, Jake would answer Kyle's questions. And then after a while, I'm like, I just reached out to Jake. I'm like, hey, can I just hire you to do this? So I paid both of them for like a month. And then I'm like, all right, Kyle, thank you very much. So Jake started working with me, and this was probably like 3 or 4 years ago now. And so he's with us today as our principal software engineer. And the guy's phenomenal.
He's an amazing hire.
We would not be doing this without him.
Yeah.
And the dude is on another, like, he holds it down for the entire organization on software.
Oh, really?
And he's just that good. And so met up with him, and so he allowed us. So Watts Innovations, with making drones, I think he came in at like 2019, 2020. So if you think about it, it's really like 2 or 3 years with zero software devs. Like, all we did was we made a turnkey system. I would tune it, fly it, here you go, stock firmware, right? But he really came in and changed the game for us.
Yeah, I want to recap right now because we're about to get into the actual meat of stuff. Started out of RC, putting stuff together on your own. Moved into putting a camera on a helicopter. And then you went into DAI with multi-rotors because you needed to just focus on the shots. And then you went into MFD world where, okay, maybe I need to customize this experience for other people to use it.
Exactly.
And then as the AI was closing its ecosystem, because it's done that many times.
End of life. You
it's
can't
done
get
that
it
many
anymore.
times with their SDK, with their hardware, and their like
M600.
We can have an hour-long podcast on that topic, but then you realized, oh well, maybe this Pixhawk thing that people want is something that we should start getting into, and then you started building OEM machines and started restructuring the way you think about drones, using all the experience you had, and now you're coming into, okay, now I need to customize this for my needs so that I can tune it perfect for my customers.
Exactly.
So it's all just coming together to the Prism.
It came in, it came into Prism, and with Prism, it's like, let's just make, basically it's like, let's make the machine. Like, it's like if you look at all of our previous customers, and now mind you, with MFD, it's real paying customers doing real jobs. So, and we've bootstrapped since day one. So never had an investor, and I'm glad we didn't, because an investor just wants to pour fuel on the fire, but there was no fire. It was just very early, just a spark here and there, right?
I'm glad you touched on that, because there's, from my observation, my point of view, there's 2 drone companies in the industry. There's the ones that are like yours, like homegrown. You started it, you founded it because you had a product that sell since day one. And there's other companies that got investment and they're doing their own thing. There's nothing wrong with that, but
it's great.
If you look at that, it's like 2 different ways of capturing the drone industry. And by then, the drone industry was like full-fledged. It was already going. It was mature enough that it was so many verticals, and you can just have a lot of customers.
Exactly. So we had customers doing jobs, and once again, like, we're tight with them. So I'd text them, hey, how'd the shoot go? Or some of our customers, Beverly Hills Aerials, they were the NASCAR drone cam, and they used our drone exclusively for, like, I think 2 seasons. So it's like every Sunday, NASCAR, and you know, it's scary, right? It's like, you know, they're flying around a track with cars going 200 miles an hour, and so I was like, I don't want to turn on TV today, and I don't. My phone's there, but I don't want to look at it. Yeah. So you know, but just learning like, hey, this connector's wearing out, this isn't working. So if you think about it, that was all the question, like what solution does the customer need? And then Prism was our answer to that. Like, okay, let's make the drone where I can honestly go to each of my customers and say, I think that this is a really good solution for you. And it worked. And so I would say a lot of the MFD customers were cinema. And so the cinema side did not come over to Prism, mainly because that DJI ecosystem. So with the Ronin and the A3 and all that together, there's people still flying DJI MFDs with the A3 and Ronin today because the ecosystem's so good. It's so good. You can't touch it. But all of our guys doing LiDAR and scanning and antennas and package delivery, we'll get to that. But they all flew Prism because of just the freedom it gives you.
Yeah, and then so you build your team at that point. You needed to scale.
It started to. So it's
no longer just you and your wife.
So it was my wife. It was Carly and myself, and so COVID hit, and COVID was kind of the best thing that happened to Watts Innovations because we were ready to launch Prism and AUVSI in like April of 2020. But the world shut down, and it gave us another 6 months. And so I just like stayed at home. I was in the basement at that time. So like,
you moved from the kitchen in your mom's house to your basement.
Yeah. So now we're at the basement. I mean, in all honesty, I probably had like 1,000 square feet, like big basement, right? Okay. So like we're in the basement at that point, and Caleb and Jake were both remote, so just us three designed Prism.
Okay, Caleb and Jake were already working with you.
Yeah, just like contractor, kind of part time, and so just working with me here and there. And so we were working through Prism, and we never announced Prism till September, so it bought us another 6 months or something like that. And so. We worked through that and then launched Prism in September of 2020, and had a bunch of orders. Man, I think we had just instantly like 12 or 20 pre-orders or something.
Can you name some of your clients?
A lot. The initial clients,
or whatever you remember.
Yeah. So initial clients was like Skyward. But they unfortunately shut down.
Yep.
They were one. One of our best customers. Like he's been with us every iteration. Like Ian Fairweather from a company called Fairweather IT. He does water sampling. So they have a capsule where they fly the drone over this Berkeley pit, which is like a caustic kind of water, like pit from the runoff. And if birds land on the water, it cooks them from the inside out. So he has this contract to, number one, scare birds away with drones.
Wow.
And then number two, to do water sampling. So he takes our drone, flies, hovers over the water, drops a water capsule like 100 feet deep, opens the capsule, closes it, collects the sample, closes it, flies back up to the surface or to the ground. So
many applications for technology.
Crazy. LiDAR customers, I can't even remember a lot of the initial customers with Prism. MWH Geosystems.
Which LiDARs were you using with them?
Like a Vux, the Regal Vux, or Phoenix LiDAR, those guys.
Phoenix LiDAR?
Yeah, we've got customers doing magnetometer surveying and such. But when it really changed, it really changed around October. October, it's like, all right, even with COVID and uncertainty, I think we need to move out of the house.
And who was building your drones back then?
Me.
Just you?
This is me.
Wow.
Yeah, just building everything.
So then you like full time, no longer doing tires, no longer doing toys.
Yeah, the tires was only to kickstart it. Tires was maybe like 4 months or something.
Yeah.
But by this time it was going.
Well, but no other side gigs. It's just like Watts Innovation by then, like full percent.
So it's Watts 100%. Innovations. Yeah, it's Watts Innovations. But at this point too, I mean, even still, like, the problem is that the cash flow is the hardest.
Yeah.
So at this point, it's like I'm all in. Like I've basically like maxed out every personal credit card I have. Like Carly and I would find these crazy ways to pay rent off credit. I could tell you guys some crazy ways of,
playing with numbers.
Yeah. We had some, we had these orders, right? We had pre-orders, and I think customers would put a deposit. But still, we had hundreds of thousands of dollars worth. At that point, it's probably like 100, 150K worth of raw parts we had to buy.
Exactly.
So it's like, how do you kind of come up with that?
The upfront cost is high.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And that's why hardware is very hard. Like one reason, one of many.
Yeah.
And so we kind of had to float this as well. So we would do things like, and I'd pay her with Venmo, with a credit card, and take the hit for a 3% balance tree, and then she'd transfer it back, and we put it in the business to fund the next order, just these crazy things. And so we got the initial Prisms out there, and by that point, it was October of 2020, we got a small little 2,000 square foot little building that we could work out of now. So now we're out of the basement, right? And so no longer with the cat and dog. Now we have an actual business. And so that was in October of 2020, and started making the first Prisms that shipped at the end of 2020 out of there. And so even at that point, in the beginning with just Prism, it was just us. We never had a full-time employee at that point. Everyone's just kind of contracting. Had one or two people who would come in to help turn wrenches from time to time, but no one really steady.
Yeah.
And then where things really changed was at the end. I met up with a small startup at that time. They had about 15 employees. They were called DroneUp. And they came to the shop. We were only in for like 2 weeks. Yeah. And but this company DroneUp was there to come talk about deliveries.
By shop, you mean your basement?
No, so they came to our office.
Okay.
So they came to the office, but yeah, we were only 2 weeks into the office, right? Okay. So we just moved in, and it was only me full time. So there's many days the office was just me. But I'm like, man, I've got this like CTO coming from DroneUp and the chief strategy officer. Like, they're talking about some big things. Like, it can't just be me. Yeah. So I get my buddy Chris to take off the day from work. He was working with another company at that time and helping me on the weekends. I'm like, hey, just take the day off, come in, so that there seems like more. My wife Carly was still working with us kind of part-time. I had her take off the day from work from the hospital. And so she came in, so it's 3 of us there when DroneUp came. Yeah. And so fast forward.
So it looked legit.
So we looked legit. And so we got hooked up with DroneUp then, and they were doing some early pilot testing for deliveries for Walmart. And I'm like, this is a huge opportunity. So let's.
In 2020?
In 2020.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this is not something that came out of nowhere. Like it took a long time building.
Long time, yeah. So they started. Yeah, there were like 15 people when we met with them. And so they came in and was looking to do some kind of cargo hauling for Walmart, like a 5-pound package. I'm like, hey, we got Prism. I can do this for you. You want precision landing? Okay, cool. What else do you want? Yeah. All these things, right? Well, we want to be able to load a box and drop a box. Okay, well, we can do that for you. Yeah. So we did that, and so then they ended up buying a few units, and Prism kind of started to take off a little bit. So then I started bringing in some more people. Some of the biggest first hire actually was going back to the cinema days. My friend Jordy Klein, his daughter Rossi had just graduated from college with a mechanical engineering degree. Nice. And she knows drones, she knows how to work on stuff. And her husband Mark Force, I'd work with him in the movie set days flying. And so they moved up from Florida kind of as contractors in the kind of late 2020. And I guess it was 21 when they came up. So they came up full time, and they're like, hey, like we believe in this. I'm like, I can't guarantee I can pay you all the time, but I think I can. Oh, that's fine, we're good. So they're in their mid-20s, they don't really care. So they came up full time and helped
for the experience and the adventure.
Yeah, so wrenching full time. So they were huge to come in early. And then my longtime accountant, Andrew, came in as our CFO. So I'm like, hey, like I think I can use you full time now. He's like, I'm done with the accounting firm. So he comes in, and so kind of the first few people were 2 people to help wrench full time, and then getting someone on finances because it's just a lot.
So now someone else had to figure out the Venmo credit card.
Yeah.
Let them figure it out.
But the cool thing is that he was in my world for 10 years. So he'd be like, dude, why is your personal credit card at $38,000 right now? It's like, I needed to buy stuff. Okay, well, we're going to transfer this over. So it's not like I had to introduce him to the scary. Yeah. He was in it with me. So so he came in, and then without those 3 coming in super early, wouldn't have happened. And then I had some just amazing friends come in from the RC world, people like Kyle Dahl. Look him up on YouTube. Yep. I mean, one of the best RC heli pilots in the world. And so just having him come in, and we had flown together and competed against each other for since 2008. And so he had designed helicopters too, and so we just speak the language. So it's like, hey, we should do a part like this. Oh, remember this from the Hirobo Freya in '09?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, let's do that. Okay, cool. So we just speak that language, and so started building the team at that point. And it's kind of like an Ocean's 11 kind of thing, where it's like, we need a guy who can do this. Oh, I got a guy.
So you were basically looking at your network because you needed people that you could trust, because things were not that formed that well.
No, not
so
at all.
You couldn't like give them direction.
No.
You couldn't be on top of them. You needed them to be on their own.
Exactly, and it was very tribal knowledge. So what they would do, tribal knowledge. So people would come in and they would just work with me for a few weeks at a time and be like, okay, like it's not like I was just getting people with an engineering degree fresh out of college with a high GPA. We went the opposite. I said, I want the best RC people in the world because we know how to do things. So we would get people like Santiago Perez, another guy, look him up on YouTube, one of the best RC airplane pilots in the world. But he's also basically an airplane mechanic. So he went and got his airplane mechanic certificate to A&P, so that way, like, he understands RC, he knows how to fundamentally work on aircraft. So he would come in and just, he'd fly in from LA, stay at a hotel for the week, and fly home. And so I'd be like, okay, this one we use 3x6 screws here with blue Loctite, and then here we do this, and so just people coming in, tribal knowledge, and we still didn't have a manual how to build anything.
Yeah.
It was all just in our heads. So. But everyone was just the best at what they do, and so this is why even early Prism aircraft are still phenomenally great products, because it's people building them who know what they're doing.
So in a time lapse of a year, you went from 2 people, you and your wife, to having less than 10 people.
10 or so, 10 in there. And then
because you were working with DroneUp on that cargo drone.
Yeah. So DroneUp was
customizing the Prism.
Exactly. So we just kept adding stuff to Prism for them. So
and at the same time, you were still selling Prism to other customers.
Yeah. So we had customers kind of all over the place doing, like I said, like a lot of LiDAR, mapping, surveying, magnetometer, flying, things like that.
All the sensors you can think of in the sky. Yeah, the Prism's really modular, right? Because it's a big frame.
Yeah. So and then going back to it, like we made the quadcopter and the coaxial version, and I'm glad Prism was designed to be something small, like an M300 sized, really. This was before the M300. Yeah. But then at the last minute, I'm like, I've got a lot of heavy lift customers. I think we're still going to have heavy lifts. So let's make a heavy lift version. And to this day, like 98% of our sales are heavy lift. And then like 2% are the quad. Yeah. So fast forward now to Prism Sky, we haven't even flown the quad. It's like, no, I don't think anyone really wants it. Yeah, so it's all X8.
How did it transition from Prism to Prism Sky?
Yeah. Okay.
Was it because it was for this project specifically, right?
Yeah. So we have Prism with ArduPilot and Cube, and the ArduPilot communities, like, they're great. Like, really great. Like, all the devs in there were really great, and the Cube is fantastic hardware.
Yeah, I mean,
it's fantastic.
I also got started. I don't know if you knew this, but I got started in ArduPilot.
Cool.
Too. So like, I know them all. Yeah. Hi to everyone in the ArduPilot community.
Hello there. Hello, Tridge and all the guys. Yep. Randy. James. Like, just some really great people there.
Philip.
Yeah. Philip was very helpful. So was really good. And with Prism, we made our own Cube breakout board. So that was kind of our first, like, all right, let's really integrate like the Autopilot into the drone. Mm-hmm. So with Prism Sky, it really became this deal where it's like, what I noticed the hard part with Prism was anything past a simple integration. So for example, like, let's connect like a Sony camera or something like that, or let's connect another camera. And so Jake, coming in from the software side, was very instrumental to where it was his opinion that he felt that the ecosystem that was Prism was incorrect, because we had a small Raspberry Pi on board that handled our propulsion ID. All it did was just look at the arm sets and send that. So we have the Autopilot acting as like the heart of the aircraft, right? And the Autopilot is basically like the center, and the Raspberry Pi is just like one tangent of that. He's like, no. The computer has to be the center. Like the computer is really the center of the drone. And then the autopilot is actually just one part of the computer. And so at that time too, we were talking to some people at Alterian, such as Lorenz, working with an amazing go-to-market specialist from Alterian named Salming Sato.
Yeah, Salming. Hi, Salming.
Hi, Salming. We got her now. She is our chief commercial officer.
I noticed.
Amazing. We talked for like 3 years before we ever spent $1 with Alterian. So like the most patient salesperson you could ever ask for. This amazing relationship with her. And so just starting with Alterian, and we really looked at what Skynode had to offer and what Alterian was doing. And I felt that it would help bridge the gap, because we had one software guy. And still to this day, we have one software guy. And figured what they were doing, we could do it. I feel like we could honestly get there, but they will help us get to market much faster. Where they have the computer is kind of the heart of the aircraft, right? And then you have the flight controller on board, they have an LTE module. But then once again, like they have all the software set for like a Sony A7R4. So if we just connect the Sony A7R4 to Skynode, it just works. And now we have full camera control, and we have all that there. Ethernet-based radios is something different for us, so we had to learn all that. So we basically just like took the Cube carrier board off of Prism and made a different breakout board for Skynode and started that. And that was summer of last year. So that was like probably like June or July of 2021. And then we announced it in September, and we said like, oh, we'll be at the market by the end of the year. And I was wrong. I was off by a year. Off by a year. So fast forward to today, we are...
Hardware is hard.
It's hard. So we have just shipped out early units of Prism Sky to like paying customers. And so
Prism Sky was the Prism plus the Skynode.
Exactly.
And Alterian Enterprise PX4.
Exactly.
And the Alterian suite on the cloud.
Exactly. So that's really the main difference. And then we took advantage of some little things we've been learning from customers just over time. So mechanically, we made some changes, actually to a lot. It ended up just being 1 or 2 changes, and now it's a completely different animal.
Yeah.
To where now our battery connections is set up for our upcoming smart battery over UAV CAN, right?
That's interesting.
Things like that.
So you went from only needing software so that you can change a logo on QGC to actually moving everything to the software.
Exactly.
So that you can configure things in software instead of hardware, because hardware is so hard.
Exactly. And it's all about, like, at the end of the day, I mean, here's the truth. Like, DJI makes the most compelling, amazing products out there.
Yeah. No,
Period.
I mean...
Period.
We have to be completely honest
Period.
about that. The industry needs to raise the level.
We do.
Because the user experience out of a DJI product is just out of this world.
It's amazing.
Like, we need to work to get there.
Agreed. And so once I started learning a little bit about what Alterian was doing, a little bit how PX4 worked, a little bit about Dronecode, and it's slightly different from the ArduPilot Cube approach. So
don't want to interrupt you, but you came to the interview saying, I just spoke to someone, I know what the difference between ArduPilot and PX4 is.
Yeah.
And I want to put you on the spot right now.
Yeah, so I learned. So
what's your take?
No. So I think it's good. So first of all, like I think they're both amazing projects and platforms and devs, and I truly want to continue supporting both, because I think they're both really great. So from what I learned with ArduPilot Cube, it's basically, so like Cube has their patent for the hardware, right? And ArduPilot is very much built around, like, it's open source software, but it's kind of built around like that proprietary Cube hardware. And the approach was, we had various partners. For example, I won't name them, but we worked very closely with a camera company to try to help them with their Mavlink implementation to get it working with Prism. And it was like pulling teeth. It was hard. It was impossibly hard, because they're like, well, what standard do we follow? And then we did our best to kind of point them in the right direction. And it's like Mavlink, but not all Mavlink is the same, and it gets really technical. And it was just really hard. It was really hard. And so in their defense, though, this camera company didn't have crystal clear standards, one could say, to follow. And then once I started learning about Alterian and PX4 and how Alterian in the PX4 community, right? Like Alterian is the enterprise industrial customer leading this, but really Dronecode as well.
There's an ecosystem behind everything. Yeah.
Exactly. What I really admire about what you guys are doing is helping to create the hardware standards of which manufacturers like myself can follow. Because like we make hardware, right? So here's a perfect example. So if I make the drone and I have a breakout to connect to cameras and gimbals and such, what connections do we need?
Yeah.
Do we need Ethernet? Do we need USB? Is there like a voltage? Like, do we need IOs? Do we need serial connect? Like, what does it need to be? Well, you guys enter the Pixhawk payload bus.
Yep.
And then there's enterprise customers like FreeFly putting their 2 cents in. And you have people from the PX4 community, and Alterian is leading development in there. So then you have these group meetings where it's like, hey, here's what we believe the hardware standard should be. So then we enter into the market saying, well, now we want to be able to have the breakout panel work. So now, let's follow this standard. And then so we then contribute in, for example, like our newest GCS, which we call Contact, we have our engineers have been working on the radio standard, the Pixhawk radio standard. Yeah. So we helped contribute back, right, to the radio standard, which is great because now we know what connections need to be there. And so I think that's the biggest difference that I've seen between ArduPilot Cube and PX4, kind of. And anything else, and I admire that because we make hardware.
Yeah.
So.
No, thank you for that. I actually appreciate that because it's and I'm going to give you my take, and it's not something I do often, and I certainly don't do it publicly and not in my podcast, but I'm going to try to do it my best effort. So, yes, there are 2 big communities, and ArduPilot is amazing, and I think whenever you want to go and fly ArduPilot, you just flash it and it'll just work.
Yeah.
But people often try to compare us to them, like PX4 to ArduPilot. It then miss the fact that we're not really trying to compete with them. We're not really trying to be the best at anything. We're trying to be like a platform, so that anyone else can build on top of us.
100%.
So we don't expect you to come and flash this and be able to fly perfectly. We expect you to come and tune it because every aircraft is different.
It is.
And you need to know what you're actually going for. And then the advantage of working with our ecosystem, of course, in Dronecode, like working in the work group, like you mentioned, the payload work group. I mean, you were giving me flashbacks when you were mentioning like what connectors do I need in this payload standard? Do I need Ethernet? Do I need HDMI? Like what do I need? Because every gimbal manufacturer has their own standard. Every camera manufacturer thinks they have their own best SDK, but at the end of the day, like, okay, maybe it's great, but you can't interoperate with everything else. You need 100%. To be plug and play because at the end of the day, honestly, thinking about the pilots and their investment in their platforms, you got a 60,000 payload and like a 20,000 drone. The worst thing you can do is like crash it and you have a good payload that you can't use anymore because you can't take it to another drone.
Exactly.
And that's just the killer. And that kills the industry because you don't have that fund available to be able to purchase that next
100%. And so where I see it, like where the rubber meets the road is like, Gremsy comes out with their PE, which it's tailored to Skynode, but has the Pixhawk payload bus, kind of the dovetail connector that FreeFly helped with as well. And we plumb that to our back panel. So we have like 2 connectors that go to our back panel that then goes to their dovetail, and we plug it in, and it literally worked. Like it literally does work. It's great. And so now we can even accept FreeFly gimbals, like their Wave with their latest Wave and their gimbal. We could theoretically like plug that right into Prism Sky and it'll work. So I think that's just amazing. And then for us, we've been able to work with some awesome some awesome partners like Alex from Arc Electronics. We're utilizing his GPSs. He's assisted us as well with our smart battery. So now we've got like these kinds of things coming in over UAV CAN or drone CAN.
Is that the Watts Smart LiPo?
Yeah. So we've been working on that. And so that's basically our LiPo with a BMS on board and a nice little OLED screen.
Which, by the way, we still have to work on getting that
the dovetail
battery standard on the Watts Smart LiPo, so we can maybe put it as an open standard.
I'd love to do that. And that's what I'd love to do is like I think for the industry, like we should I want to continue contributing what we can. So if we think the community can use anything we're using, then by all means, let's go for it. And I'd be more than happy to push that back to the open source community, because we all win. And I think that with more standards, things get better.
Yep.
It really does.
Definitely.
For example, like with us working with DroneUp now more closely, we ended up, everything starts as a joke. Like, I guess we're going to build this now. And then we sleep on it. It's like, oh, crap, I guess we're building this. So now we've built our own delivery winch, and we call it Reel.
I was getting there.
And so Reel allows DroneUp to, or any other customer, to deliver a 10-pound payload from 125 feet. So it's a winch, you put the box in, and you hit deliver, and then the package just slowly goes to the ground and rests, and then the hook comes back up.
We're reaching the end of the podcast because we're running out of time.
Sorry, I'm talking too much.
No, we're both talking too much here. And we can continue talking all day the looks of it. But I want to talk about drone delivery before I go into a round of fast questions that I'm going to try and get you to answer. Sure. And then any last comments you want to make. So let's talk about drone delivery, because you were mentioning you were working on, by the end of 2020 with DroneUp, and that's how the Prism started chipping into the Prism Sky. You're working with Alterian, and you enabled your drone to be cloud connected and using PX4 and all the open standards. Amazing. You got this vehicle, but what is it being used for? Like, and it's something that I want people to realize, that open source and open standards are actually being used right now out there with your hardware to do drone delivery. So I think this is one of the verticals in the drone industry that is yet to fully take off, and it's something that we wanted to do. And I want to say we as a royal we,
for a long time,
for a decade at least. Like, we wanted to get drone delivery. We knew it was a thing. Even Amazon came out with the ads like a few years ago, but it's now a reality. And you're enabling that. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. So DroneUp is currently, today, they've done, hundreds of deliveries with our Prism drone. So they're flying those every day out of they've got 2 hubs where they test out of in Arkansas. So they're using Prism today to do deliveries for Walmart. And then we've now delivered a considerable amount of Prism Skies for them. That's their next generation platform. And so that has our own delivery winch in there as well. And so we've enabled some other kind of cool things, precision landing, precision mailbox deliveries, things like that, utilizing all open source hardware, right? ROS2 for vision, things like that. And so now we're kind of rolling that out, and they're getting ready to open up like 30 something Walmart stores. Walmart stores where they'll just set up right out front of a Walmart and fly our drone and deliver packages everywhere. Yeah,
I'm so jealous by Walmart because they got the space to actually set up the hubs in their parking lots.
They do. So it's cool. Like it's petrifying on one hand, right? Like we do our best to test as much as possible, and we want to make the safest product we can. But just the sheer number of flights that they're going to be doing is, even if there's a problem 0.01% of the time,
it's still a lot. Yeah.
Well, then we have the safest amount possible. We've partnered with drone rescue systems for a parachute option. I think that's important. Things like that. We made our winch. I think the scariest part is actually during the delivery, because you have a 100-foot rope hanging from the drone. So it could go bad and do some things. So we've put as much care and effort and testing as we can into that to make it the safest system. But it's real. It's a reality.
That's amazing. And so now that you got this partnership going, you got the Prism Sky. What's next for Watts Innovation?
So this next year, 2022, is really just getting Prism Sky just really ironed out, so that way every part coming in is perfect. 2023 is just manufacturing at scale. That's it. And then probably working on next generation aircraft and next generation products. And so if I had to guess, maybe something, we'll announce it in 23, maybe even 24. We haven't started yet, by the way. But high level for me, I would love to make it 1/3 of the parts count at 1/2 of the price and able to fly twice as long.
Nice.
Those would be like the 3.
So engineering challenges, manufacturing challenges, and making sure you're as good as you can be and get the best vehicle out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we're up to 22 people in the company. We just hired another engineer this morning. We've got some amazing talent on the team, and having these partnerships like with DroneUp really allows us to kind of scale our manufacturing abilities, where now we're not 3D printing. We've just, for example, with Prism Sky and the winch, we've we've created over like 75 injection molds.
Nice.
So now everything's coming in batch, hundreds of injection molded parts instead of just 3D printing one or two. So it's now allowing us to manufacture at scale, which is helping all of our other customers too. So we just got another 5,000 square foot facility just for assembling parts. Technicians from around the country coming in, and so it's really cool.
Nice. And really cool. What do you think is the hardest thing about drone delivery? Specifically for the vehicles, for the Prism Sky, what was the hardest challenge in there?
The winch was hard. The winch was electro software, right? So electromechanical software. So you have all three. I would say the hardest part of all of it, you hear it all the time, but it's really supply chain. Yeah. But what it becomes is it becomes whack-a-mole. Like at the arcade, like the mole comes up, you hit that one, and then that one comes up. So problem is
and then that's out of stock now.
Right, and right. We've been designing everything for over a year now. And so even one board, like our rear breakout board for the Pixhawk payload bus, we designed that over a year ago. And so we test those, we order a dozen, and it's fine, but then fast forward a year later, and it's time to order production, crap, 3 of those chips are out, and the resistor and the DC converter's out, and DC converter. So it's like, great, now we have to rev that and test that again, and then the board house goofs something.
No.
So it's a lot.
So it is definitely manufacturing at scale, which is the problem.
Yeah. But in terms of like our QC checks and everything, and the tech is awesome. I mean, you can hit go here, deliver. We can deliver 10 pounds completely all the time.
It's so interesting that you never mentioned like vibration or like not being able to fly, not stable enough. Like, that's figured out. It's
our PID tuning we did 6 months ago in one afternoon. Like, that's not the most important thing.
Yeah.
Like, if the machine goes this, it's fine, right? But does the winch talk over USB, and are we having stable connections, and
how safe is it?
Yeah, how reliable are we?
Reliable.
Delivery gets stuck. What do we do? Things like that. So it's all really hard. It's a flying computer, so it's all really hard.
Congratulations, because I've seen your vehicle, and it's amazing. It's just like really good quality. And the partnership with DroneUp obviously has been very successful. We had Mike Blades on our PX for Developers Summit, the keynote speaker, so you should check that out. It's on our YouTube channel. Yep. I want to move on to the last part of the interview, which is the fast questions. So this is how it's going to work. I'm going to throw a question. Do your best effort, whatever comes to mind first, and then we'll keep moving. And towards the end, I'm going to ask the last question, which I'm going to let you take a little more time on, and then anything you want to say after that. Okay?
Cool.
All right, so here we go.
Okay.
What does the drone industry need the most right now?
More standards.
More standards. Awesome. I like that.
Yeah. 100%.
In terms of the workforce, where do you see the biggest need? So this is a question for people watching out there who want to get into the industry.
Yeah, for sure. So what the industry needs is it needs more technicians, more people who can work on drones who have that tribal knowledge. So one of the things I joke about, but everything we do starts as a joke anyway. My long-term goal is, like, if we're successful with Watts Innovations, I want to come back and do something similar to what you guys are doing with Dronecode, but only on the mechanical side of like working on the drones. So imagine if we open like a free drone university that teaches everything about building them. Like, here's how you put Loctite on. Here's where you glue things versus epoxy them, or you see versus epoxy. All these things to teach more of the hands-on side that's not the software as much. We're struggling to find technicians who can build, but now we know exactly what we're looking for, so we're getting them. But it's still hard. Yeah,
there's a wide variety of skills that you need to be able to enter the drone industry. But you don't need to be a master of any one thing. If you know anything, you can come in.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to new software developers looking to join the workforce?
I would say just know it inside and out. So being able to go in and understand, basically, being able to compile PX4, right? Putting that together in a new code change. Also knowing how to fly. You should know how to fly.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, just have a quad and you should know how to fly, right?
Yeah, with GPS sterilization is not that hard anymore.
If you can fly nose in sideways around yourself, that really helps you.
Yeah.
And then also too, just be aware of the electro. Okay, here's actually the best thing I can recommend is if you know software really well, you should either know mechanically really well or electrical. So we see it as a triangle, and you need to have two. So for myself, I'm mechanical with some electrical, but not software. Our electrical guys, electrical with some mechanical, but where Jake is software and electrical.
Software,
So you need two. So I'd say if you're really strong in software, just find the other one that's more appealing to you, and then just dive into that a little more.
I think that's amazing. Thank you. And what's the tool? So I think you kind of answered this one. What's the tool set that candidates should bring to the table? Do you think that's the same answer?
Yeah. Just have the other trick up your sleeve.
How has the open source community matured since I started using all the open technologies, including ArduPilot and the Cube?
It's just getting good. You know, stock tuning. It works really. You know, it's no longer this on the first flight. It's pretty darn good.
Yep.
We've played with VTOL planes, helicopters, rovers. Like, it's really good. Like, it's really good, and I think the open source. I think it's the way to go.
Awesome.
It's the way to go.
All right, so this is the last question,
okay.
And feel free to take your time here. What is the one thing that you feel most people don't know about your company, product, that you think they should know?
What is the one thing? I would say for us, and probably what I'm most proud of is just how good our team is. So where we have certain individuals and engineers who in one day they'll do everything from physically work on a machine to then placing a purchase order with a vendor, to then literally get on the phone and talk to a customer, who will then pack something in a box and ship it. So we have so many people who are just so talented just across interdisciplinary. And so I think that's one of the most proud, and then can also go on and fly the crap out of a machine, right?
Yeah.
And fly anything upside down, sideways. So I think that's what I'm most proud of. Is just like our team is just all stars, and that's why we're here, right? So like I kind of lit the fire, but we really needed an awesome team to be able to come in and help us out. So I think that's what I'm most proud of, is just how wicked our team is, and just how much of a pleasure it's been to kind of build this with them.
Well, is there anything else you want to throw in out there to our audience?
No, that's it. I would just say thank you. Like a thank you to the open source community. I think that, you know, without you guys being there, without PX4 and ArduPilot being there when we needed to make that migration away from DJI, I don't know what we would have done.
Yeah.
So I think that it's just great. And so what I would love to do is that as we continue to scale and we have the resources to put more effort into things like precision landing, for example, we are doing precision landing based on vision, and we caught a bug in PX4 for precision landing. And so we pushed it back upstream. We fixed it and pushed it back upstream. But had we not had the enterprise momentum behind it, it wouldn't have funded that research. So what I'd like to do is, with us, kind of having more of the enterprise sales and customers, is that we can push back as much as we learn as possible back to the open source community to help out everyone. So I think it very much works both ways.
Awesome, that's beautiful. That's what I like to hear. Open collaboration, that's what the industry should be all about. This is what obviously open source and open technology is all about. And Bobby, I really want to thank you for being here today.
I appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you for our audience out there. If you've been listening to this for the hour or more than we've been talking about right now, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit the like button, and make sure you turn on that bell in there so that you get notifications for all your new episodes of this YouTube podcast called Behind the Tech, and also for all the tutorials and videos that we continuously upload to our YouTube channel all over social media. And again, thank you, Bobby, and this is a wrap. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
See ya.